All right, everyone, we start off today talking about how things really couldn't get worse for the Biden asterisk administration. That's what it is. It's not exactly legitimate when the person that's in control, quote unquote, of course has Alzheimer's. Technically, he shouldn't be in office at all because he should be out on the funny farm eating his ice cream. Joe Biden is reigning currently over a lackluster economy that some Americans think is better because they live in a gated community, so inflation doesn't impact them as much because, they've got theirs. And they maybe people rich enough not to have to go shopping or pump their own gas feel like it's perfectly fine. Everyone else knows it's not, and the inflation remains sticky. Of course, if you have year-over-year inflation that's still rising, over 9 points in the prior year, that means that you're compounding that, and it means that the inflation is still there. It's just that finally it's being paced by wage growth. Of course, that number is also disconcerting because that additional wage growth is compounding a prior lower number, so it's not actually growing at pace with inflation at all. That's a lie. It's called lies, damn lies, and statistics. So there's number one. Number two, you have a major foreign policy disaster at the moment. The U.S. has spent more than a year pumping Ukraine full of steroids, and it doesn't seem to be working. The counteroffensive that the Ukrainians have been launching over the last few weeks appears not to have had much of an effect. That's not great, because once winter comes, it's definitely the ball is in Russia's field, and we'll see what happens with them. Now, you've also got a number of intertwined scandals unfolding, and even the legacy media is not, it seems, effective enough to wagon circle enough for Joe Biden to escape unscathed. There's a reason why if you ask about Burisma to Karine Jean-Pierre, she just says, well, I'm not going to talk about that right now, and then invoke like the Hatch Act or something like that, which doesn't even apply. The Burisma scandal has been revived. We now have new material, Grassley's leaked memo from the whistleblower, etc., making outright allegations by individuals within the government. So these are the deep state government bureaucrats that the Democrats keep telling us we're not allowed to criticize. Several of them are alleging that there was a literal bribery scandal involving Joe Biden, pertinent to his son's work over in, ironically enough, Ukraine, and that is also causing a leverage in the current situation diplomatically in Ukraine to this day. I have no doubt whatsoever that there's going to be an attempt to cover ass, probably involving censorship. Of course, that's another intertwined scandal. Twittergate, etc. Facebookgate, you could call it. Of course, Zuckerberg talking about the same thing. The U.S. government attempting to circumvent the First and arguably Fourth and Tenth Amendments in order to justify censoring law-abiding U.S. citizens in their law-abiding, totally appropriate political opinions. All of this is coming together at a pretty bad time. And some people are actually, and I've seen several people bring this up, they've even messaged me saying that this is their opinion. They think that what the system is trying to do is look at all of the shit that's going on right now. So the deep state censoring people illegally, lackluster economy that was wrecked by the deep state's lockdownerism mainly, etc., and simply pin it all on Joe, push him out of the way because they don't think he can win re-election, get rid of Kamala probably in the process, and then nominate somebody else. This is a plausible goal for the deep state. I think it would look very odd to the American public if Joe Biden, considering number one his polling, number two his standing on a diplomatic stage, number three domestic issues, it would be odd for people, I think, to envision a scenario in which he was capable of winning re-election. Now, this may not be their goal, but it's plausible. The other possibility is just Joe Biden happens to be a fuck-up, but they'll stand behind him and then they'll honk on the election in 2024. But things really couldn't get any worse. These are major scandals, domestic and potentially foreign. If all of the claims about Joe Biden are true, then even the current conflict in Ukraine could theoretically be tied in to what Joe Biden did many years ago, when he was VP, by the way, violating the law. The allegation is that he siphoned in millions of dollars through Hunter Biden sitting on the energy board at Burisma without any experience in the energy industry. We have leaked documents that show coordination and correspondence between Hunter and these other officials that at least insinuate Dad's involvement. We have other materials, too, that we know are true. And we've got more than a year to prove that before the general election begins. So I think that Joe Biden right now is in actually a fairly precarious position. Will anything be done legally about Joe Biden's various high crimes and misdemeanors? No. Will he get impeached for it? There are growing calls to impeach him. Will we have the House GOP hold the line? I think it boils down to one thing. McCarthy would be insane to even bring a vote forward on impeachment if he wasn't sure that the party would hold rank. The GOP holds the House by only a single-digit margin. It's not a very safe margin. I think they can do it. It's just a matter of, literally, we have to trust Kevin McCarthy to get this job accomplished, which is why I'm 50-50 at best on the situation. We have to trust him to go to each individual House Republican and say, look, I'll give you some pork barrel handouts, but we got to impeach this dude because this would be good. I mean, he deserves it, number one. It's justice, number two. And number three, for partisan reasons. So will you vote for impeachment? If you have just 5 or 6 Republicans that are waffling on the issue, say, well, I'd like to impeach him, Kevin, but I don't know. I'll have to look into it. He won't even bring a vote to the floor, which, by the way, makes the Republicans look pathetic, but it's somehow better than failing to impeach him if you hold a vote. That could happen. The House GOP is so feckless. And by the way, they kind of want to self-sabotage. I think that they're going to wait until they're sure that Trump is the nominee, and then they'll probably attempt to hold a failed impeachment vote. I'm beginning to think that that's the Uniparty's goal right now, an additional damage to the GOP's credibility to try to dumb down the Trump campaign. It's virtually inevitable that he'll be the nominee, just like it's virtually inevitable, unless he dies or, they really do want to remove him and swap him out for Newsom or Whitmer or something, that Biden will be the nominee. Things couldn't be worse for Joe Biden. I keep hearing about how bad things are for Donald Trump, and all I see are a bunch of kangaroo court proceedings. Alvin Bragg throwing shit at the wall, hoping that the jury simply convicts him on one lesser included or something like that simply because of the plethora of charges. I see the Mar-a-Lago documents case that cut and dry Trump did nothing wrong in, but I see them dragging him anyway. I think they're desperate. I think that they're either trying to shield the Biden admin, which is possible, or they're preparing to pin all the shit on him, force him aside, and get somebody else in. Newsom is probably at the top of that list. It's certainly not Kamala Harris. Of course, there's another added bonus. Let's say that Biden wins re-election. Kamala Harris is VP. So then 28 comes around. Kamala Harris is the heir apparent. She's the former VP. They'll have to bribe her to get her to stand down. I think she's egotistical enough to run. If they get rid of Joe, though, and they start smearing him as Dirty Joe, well, you ruined the Democrats' chances, and we're so sad and mad at you. Then you can also throw Kamala under the bus and get rid of her because she was the VP under the same admin. All you need is one email where she addresses anything to Joe that's tangentially related to any of the things that he did wrong, and then the legacy media, big tech, and the Uniparty can dogpile her too and retire her from the battlefield in order to get someone in there they think can actually win a general election. There are shenanigans going on right now, to be sure. That's about all. Peace out.